Imagine walking past someone every day, a neighbor, a coworker, a barista, someone whose smile warms the room, whose kindness feels genuine, whose life seems like a small-town dream. Now imagine that same person, behind closed doors, harboring secrets so dark, so twisted, they rewrite everything you thought you knew about safety and trust. Tonight, I'm taking you deep inside the story of Daniel Harper, a man whose quiet life hid an unspeakable nightmare. This isn't just a story of crime. It's a story of deception, obsession, and a chilling confession that shattered a community. Stay with me, because the truth you're about to hear will haunt you long after the video ends. And hey, if you love stories that make your skin crawl and your mind race, hit that subscribe button and ring the bell now. You don't want to miss this one. Portland, Oregon. A city known for its rain-soaked mornings, vibrant neighborhoods, and coffee culture. But just beyond the city's heartbeat, past the bustling streets and artful murals, lie neighborhoods where life feels still, predictable, and safe. Daniel Harper lived in one of those neighborhoods. A 37-year-old hardware store employee, Daniel was a man of routine. His house was an unassuming two-story with faded white siding and a neatly trimmed lawn. His mornings began the same way. Black coffee, exactly 2 scoops of grounds, a splash of cream, no sugar. He'd chat briefly with coworkers about the weather, the latest game or weekend plans, his voice calm, steady, blending into the comforting hum of ordinary life. To the outside world, Daniel was the embodiment of normal. But beneath that veneer, something was quietly unraveling. Neighbors described him as friendly, polite, but kind of reserved. He helped the elderly Mrs. Lawson carry groceries, fixed the leaky faucet at the Thompsons' house, and never once raised his voice in the years he lived there. Yet, as the summer rain gave way to a dry, tense autumn, subtle changes began to creep in. Emily Collins was a bright, lively 22-year-old college student, home for the summer break. She had plans to meet friends downtown for dinner, laughter and stories awaiting her at the local diner. But Emily never arrived. Her disappearance was the kind that haunts communities. No ransom notes, no demands, no clear leads. When her car was found weeks later, abandoned on a remote dirt path miles from the city, investigators were baffled. The windows were down, the keys still inside the ignition. No signs of a struggle, no witnesses. Only a faint, strange scent, gasoline, hung in the air. Her friends held vigils, hoping for news, but the silence stretched on. The police called it a missing persons case, but deep down, everyone felt something darker was unfolding. As days turned to weeks, Daniel's neighbors noticed odd things. The cheerful man who once greeted them at the mailbox now avoided eye contact. Late at night, a peculiar odor seeped from his garage, chemical and sharp, like paint thinner mixed with something else. Strange noises echoed. The scrape of metal muffled thuds, a rhythmic pounding that stopped when anyone drew near. One neighbor, Mrs. Green, swore she saw him hurriedly carrying heavy, wrapped bundles from his house to the woods behind the property, only to return alone, wiping his hands nervously. Rumors began to swirl quietly, but Daniel kept his distance, and with no evidence, suspicions remained whispers. Then it happened again. Samantha Reed, 25, disappeared on her way home from work. Her last text to a friend was vague and hurried. "I think someone's following me." Her phone went dead hours later. 2 more young women vanished over the following months, all with eerily similar details. No forced entry, no signs of a struggle, no ransom calls. Detectives noticed the pattern. The common thread was Daniel. His daily routes crossed the paths where the women were last seen. But each time, there wasn't enough proof to hold him. The town began to fear the unknown predator in their midst. At this point, what do you think? Was Daniel a victim of circumstantial suspicion? Or was there something darker behind those quiet eyes? Write your guesses in the comments, and if you're not subscribed yet, now's a great time, because this story is far from over. Ethan Cooper was just 16 when he started noticing Daniel's strange behavior. What began as teenage curiosity turned into something more, a gut feeling that something was wrong. One autumn night, Ethan followed Daniel under the cover of darkness. He watched from the tree line as Daniel dragged a large, heavy bundle toward the woods. Heart pounding, Ethan called the police. When officers arrived, Daniel was gone, but inside his home was a different story. Police found bloodstains beneath freshly painted walls, hidden behind rugs, and beneath floorboards. More disturbing were the journals, dozens of handwritten notebooks filled with meticulous entries, thoughts, plans, and twisted justifications for acts of violence. Daniel wrote of a mission to punish what he called the morally corrupt, a warped sense of justice driving his actions. During interrogation, his voice was cold, devoid of empathy. He admitted to kidnapping and killing the missing women, but his story didn't end there. Further investigation revealed a web of connections. Encrypted messages led detectives to suspect Daniel was part of a larger, secretive network, a ring coordinating abductions, sharing information, and protecting one another. Some victims were linked to influential local figures, others whistleblowers or those who had angered unseen powers. Daniel's confession had merely peeled back the surface of a vast, sinister underworld. For the families, each revelation was another wound. For the town, it was a betrayal of the most profound kind, that evil had lived unnoticed in their own backyards. Psychologists described Daniel as a man shaped by childhood neglect, trauma, and an overwhelming need to control. But questions remain. How many victims have yet to be found? Who else is involved? And how deep does this network run? The investigation continues. Deeper, darker, more complex than anyone imagined. We'll explore the shadowy network behind Daniel's crimes, uncovering corruption, betrayal, and a desperate race to bring justice before more lives are lost. Make sure you're subscribed and ready. If the story unsettled you, share it with someone who needs to hear it, because awareness can be the first step towards safety. Dive into our playlist for more real crime stories that shock, intrigue, and haunt. Stay vigilant. Stay curious. When we left off, Daniel Harper, the seemingly ordinary neighbor, had been arrested, but his confession cracked open a door into something far more disturbing. A hidden network pulling strings behind the scenes. Tonight, we peel back those shadows. What began as a solo hunt for a serial killer spirals into a complex web of betrayal, fear, and silent complicity. And just when you think you've grasped the truth, it will twist again, leaving you questioning everything. So buckle up. This isn't just a crime story. It's a dark journey through a secret world few dare to acknowledge. And if you haven't already, smash that subscribe button and hit the bell icon so you don't miss a second of this unraveling mystery. In the weeks following Daniel's arrest, investigators scoured every corner of his life. But the more they found, the clearer it became. Daniel was a single thread in a vast, tangled web. Encrypted messages on his devices hinted at others. Names, codes, locations. Surveillance footage unearthed meetings with unknown individuals in shadowed parking lots, quiet cafes, and remote cabins. Phone records revealed calls to and from high-ranking local officials, calls that raised eyebrows and suspicions. Detectives uncovered evidence pointing toward a covert group operating under the guise of legitimate businesses, security firms, logistics companies, and even charitable organizations. Their operations were cloaked in layers of false identities and shell corporations. The victims, targeted for reasons that went beyond chance. Whispers of political motives, revenge, and greed began to surface. One informant, speaking under anonymity, described the network as a shadow government, a force that protected its own and crushed anyone who threatened its grip. Families of victims found themselves stonewalled, their pleas met with silence or worse, veiled threats. Journalists who dug too deep faced harassment, their investigations quietly derailed. As the investigation deepened, it became clear the network's reach extended into the city's elite, businessmen, politicians, and law enforcement officers with their own agendas. Daniel, with his confession, became both a key witness and a scapegoat. Questions arose. Was he coerced? Was his confession a way to shield others? Or was he the mastermind behind a larger conspiracy? Behind every statistic is a story of loss. Families of the missing shared heartbreak, clinging to hope despite mounting despair. Maria Sanchez, mother of one victim, spoke to reporters about the toll of waiting for answers. It's like living in a nightmare you can't wake from. We need the truth. We deserve justice. Their courage inspired community vigils and rallies demanding accountability. Experts analyzed Daniel's profile, dissecting his motivations and mental state. Many saw a man consumed by trauma, driven by a warped sense of morality. But his role within the network puzzled psychologists. Was he a puppet, a willing participant, or a victim of manipulation? What's your take? Is Daniel the mastermind, a pawn, or something in between? Drop your thoughts below. And if you're still not subscribed, now's the time. This story is only going deeper. Then came a breakthrough. An encrypted hard drive discovered during a raid contained a trove of communications. Videos, audio files, and documents revealing meetings where victims were discussed, targets chosen, and alibis crafted. One chilling file, a recording of a voice distorted to conceal identity, referenced Project Midnight, a codename for a series of kidnappings linked directly to the network. With this evidence, law enforcement launched coordinated raids across the state, aiming to dismantle the network piece by piece. But as they closed in, insiders leaked warnings. Safe houses were emptied overnight. Key suspects vanished. In one abandoned warehouse, investigators found a room, stark, cold, and chillingly sterile, outfitted with surveillance equipment, restraints, and disturbing signs of long-term captivity. Among the evidence were personal belongings of missing victims, some not yet reported to police. With so many players involved, allies, enemies, and unknowns, the line between friend and foe blurred. Whispers of corruption reached the highest offices. And as the case unfolded, even some members of the investigation found themselves under scrutiny. Who was pulling the strings? Who was next? In Part 3, we'll dive into the political intrigue, the betrayal within law enforcement, and the hidden puppet masters manipulating the darkness from the shadows. If the story keeps you on edge, share it with someone who loves a good mystery. Dive into our playlist for more deep dives into chilling crimes. And don't forget, subscribe and turn on notifications, because the truth is only getting darker. So far, we've unraveled a disturbing saga. Daniel Harper, the quiet man next door, arrested for a series of disappearances and brutal murders. We followed whispers of a shadowy network, corruption, complicity, and cover-ups that threatened to blur the lines between villain and victim. A night, we strip away the layers of deception and face a harsh truth. Daniel acted alone. No hidden cabals, no puppeteers in the dark. Just one man's terrifying obsession and the chilling consequences it unleashed. Stay with me, because the final chapters of this story will reveal not only a killer, but the haunting cost of unchecked darkness. And if you haven't yet, subscribe and ring the bell. The truth demands your full attention. As the investigation progressed, many pieces failed to align with the theory of a larger network. The so-called encrypted messages and meeting footage were re-examined by cyber forensic experts. What initially appeared as a conspiracy turned out to be a web of Daniel's own fabricated delusions, carefully crafted to confuse and mislead. The Project Midnight Files? A twisted journal Daniel created, blending fantasy and reality. Psychologists delved deeper into Daniel's psyche. They described a man battling severe trauma from childhood neglect and abandonment, compounded by social isolation and escalating psychosis. Daniel's journals revealed an intense obsession with control and punishment, a belief that he was executing justice where society had failed. His false leads and staged evidence were cries for attention and control over a chaotic internal world. During the final interrogation, Daniel offered a confession more detailed than ever. He admitted to meticulously planning each abduction, exploiting his knowledge of local routines, and manipulating his normal persona to evade suspicion. His killings were brutal but methodical, an attempt to correct those he judged morally flawed, a dangerous delusion that fueled his violence. He alone was responsible for the disappearances, the fear, and the shattered lives. For families, the reality was bitter and raw. Maria Sanchez, whose daughter was among the victims, spoke publicly. "It's hard to accept that one man could do this alone, but it's also a relief. No one else was out there hunting our girls. It was Daniel. We want justice for him and closure for us." Community vigils became places of healing, and the city slowly began to reclaim its peace. Daniel's trial was swift but exhaustive. With overwhelming evidence and his own chilling confession, the jury had little doubt. He was convicted of multiple counts of first-degree murder and sentenced to life imprisonment without parole. The courtroom echoed with the weight of grief, anger, and relief. Daniel Harper's story is a grim reminder that evil can lurk behind the most ordinary faces. His calculated cruelty, masked by everyday smiles, challenges how we perceive safety and trust. Experts warn that isolation, trauma, and untreated mental illness can breed monsters, but also emphasize the need for vigilance and community support. As this case closes, its impact lingers. It urges us to look beyond surface appearances, to listen to whispers of discomfort, and to support those who feel unseen. For Portland, healing is ongoing, but so is remembrance. If this story moved you, please share it because awareness can save lives. Check out our playlist for more true crime stories that explore the darkest depths and the human spirit's resilience. Subscribe and ring the bell because stories like this demand to be heard. Thank you for joining me on this journey. Stay safe, stay curious.